Hi guys, we're here with Emma Dirk. She's a brilliant author, Romanian author living in Canada, and I'm so thrilled to, talk about your book and all the amazing things you do. But first, um, I want to talk about your childhood and upbringing because I'm assuming you were born in the communist era, right? I'm assuming we're about the same age.
Yeah.
So, can you share a specific memory from your childhood that vividly represents life under communist era? Um, and how has that memory influenced your perspective or choices later on in life?
It's funny when you ask me that. That kind of brings me thinking about food for some weird reason. um, so yeah, that brings me memories of eating bananas and oranges just for Christmas for many
Yeah.
years because we didn't have access to any of that. Uh,
Wow.
Yes, and also pateu cu chai, tea with pate. We used to eat that in kindergarten, and kind of every time I serve tea or eat anything similar, it kind of brings me back to my childhood and
Like
memories. And
the liver pate
yes,
with tea. Yeah.
yes, tea or milk.
Oh my gosh. But if you had an orange back then you were one of the rich families because to have an orange for Christmas, that was like you made it. That was, so you were
Yes,
definitely not one of the poor people if you had that orange.
yeah, and then you would peel off the exterior, and then you would keep it for having a nice smell throughout Christmas for that week. Improving the smell in the
Yeah.
room. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember that like back then everything was regimented and controlled. Remember like when we were like how the government controlled all the media outlets, so we only had access to information that had been approved by the state. There was like no freedom of press, no freedom of religion or freedom of speech. I remember we used to actually go in the basement to pray because we weren't allowed to be seen praying. I don't know how your family was. Were you guys like religious? Were you guys hiding when you were praying also, or?
Yeah, there were definitely different times than today from in that regard for sure. Yeah, and another memory that kind of brings me back to childhood, and also I would try to think that also maybe for my love for houses and when I was a kid, my mom used to work in the cigarette factory, and
Oh
she
wow.
used to bring home feet, like tens of feet of cigarette filters, and we would just cut them up and with glue we would like build houses and entire sets and stuff for to play
Oh,
because we didn't have any toys right back then. Toys were something that not everyone had, and I remember after the 90s when communism ended, we received some help, some donations through a church, and my first toy was my first stuffy. It was a blue rat, and I remember I used to take it with me everywhere. I was like so happy I had something that was mine and to play with.
yeah, that is so true. Yeah, we like back then we had to be very resourceful and creative to make ends meet or have these luxurious things such as a toy. And yeah, I remember like for example, my parents would often barter with neighbors and friends to get like the things we needed because remember stores didn't barely had anything. Like they were, uh, we had to stay in long ass lines just to get like a 1 liter of milk because remember it used to be 1 liter per family, so
For
we
family, yeah.
couldn't get more. Yeah, it was rations, so. I remember staying in this line and we were like 2 hours long and I was little at the time and I'm like, man, all that for some milk. And I remember she was like, okay, I'll give you 3 eggs, you give me some flour. And it was just crazy, like back then. And the all that with the like I said, the toys.
That
We
was
were,
something that, yeah, yeah. My mom used to trade cigarettes for meat and other things that we needed because you couldn't really, yeah, someone worked in a factory, a meat factory, you worked in the
yeah, yeah,
cigarette
yeah.
factory. So people really traded back then. Yeah, and I always like to say that Romanians have a golden medal for patience, because we are trained, like we were trained from, like, since we were little kids to sit in lines. Like I remember also sitting with my sisters, with the coupons. They would stamp them to get the food and
Yes.
stuff, and uh, it didn't matter. Our parents worked shift work, right? Like
Yeah.
day and nights. Sometimes we didn't see them for a long time, and my sisters practically raised me. So I used to go with them to the store, and I remember how we sat in the lineups for hours and hours. That's why. Here in Canada, when I have to wait in line for 10 minutes at the bank or at the doctor, I'm like, I have the black belt in this. I have the golden, medal. I'm good. I can wait for hours. You know,
Yeah.
I'm very
Please, you
patient. Yeah.
complain about 10 minutes. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, we definitely had to be, we learned to be very self-sufficient, make things ourselves, be very patient. And I think it really taught me to be very appreciative of the freedoms and opportunities we have in this Western world, like for me in the US and for you obviously in Canada. It also, I think to me, it made me aware of the ways in which government policies can, can have a real impact on people's lives, and the importance of having a say in these policies, of course. It's such an interesting, we definitely have, um, it was actually a blessing. It was a tough time, but it did teach us a lot, I think.
That's also how I see things. Like when I was younger, in the 90s and stuff, I always used to think, oh, why God, why was I born here, going through this tough life? I thought, it's like I was kind of sad about that. But as I grew older and older, I realized that I can change my own life and I can do the things I want to do, and it doesn't matter where I was born. And that changed my whole perspective, because I'm not gonna be a victim, of
Right.
yeah, like I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do, and it doesn't matter where I was born. So I think everyone has equal opportunities, and
Yeah.
it all depends what we do with our life, right? What we decide to do. So, but I know
Right.
what you mean, tough times. But in the end, when I think back of my childhood, I'm super happy. Like all the people that I grew up with, all my friends and family, and like I had such a free and adventurous childhood. When I look at kids today, it's very different, than what
Yeah.
we lived.
Yeah. And they don't understand a lot of things that were like, wow, you really don't understand how lucky and how good you have it. Like,
Yeah.
so. What about, like, can you share a bit about your journey going from Romania to Canada and how these diverse cultures have influenced you personally and professionally?
For sure. Yeah, so it's interesting because it kind of ties into the story I was just telling you about me thinking, when I was very young, like I want to do something with my life. I always knew that I want to get far. I didn't really know what that meant at the time. I just knew that I'm not going to stay in my hometown forever. I just had this big dream. And
Yeah.
when I was about 10, 11 years old, late 90s, I decided that I'm gonna move to Canada when I grow up. So
Wow. You
my
knew,
whole
huh?
yeah, so my whole life was kind of uh, planned, and everything was based on how am I gonna get my visa to move to Canada. So for the next 15 years, that's what I did. And even when I was in school and then in high school and college, like everyone asked me, oh, so what do you want to do when you grow up, or after college, or and I was telling everyone, oh, I'm moving to Canada, and everyone was like, oh, you are insane, because I didn't even apply at that point. Like you needed to have a certain score to even qualify for the visa. You had to have 5 years of work experience. You needed to have one of the top 10, degrees that, you know, being like a lawyer, an accountant, or a nurse, a doctor, right? So I chose based on that to study accounting. I went to college and I studied accounting just because I knew it's gonna help me with my visa. Not necessarily that I was passionate about accounting. I actually studied architecture in high school, so I'm also a professional drafter.
Nice.
I've worked in architecture before when I was in Romania, actually through college. That's how I kind of made money. But yeah, I basically planned my whole life based on the fact that I wanted to move to Canada, and how can I achieve that high score to qualify, because single people, uh, they have a lower score. Like when you apply as a family, uh, husband and wife, if you have kids, your score is higher because
Oh, yeah.
the goal is to populate Canada, bring people here that pay taxes, and get a job and stuff. So when you're single and you apply as a single, it's pretty difficult. And I always tell people I feel like I won the lottery just because I was picked to, like, my visa was first of all accepted, and then the whole process that took 5 years, to actually obtain the visa. I feel pretty lucky. I feel accomplishing this, because the fact that they accept you, that doesn't mean that you are gonna get the visa. There's a very thorough process to actually get
Wow.
it. So yeah.
But why Canada and not the US? Like Canada? Maybe because you knew, maybe because you didn't know that Trudeau was going to be a president eventually.
Well, actually, I had some relatives in Canada,
Okay.
some distant cousins, I would say, and my older sister came in Canada. She moved to Canada with her husband in 2006, and then my second sister came in 2011. And when my second sister applied, she was like, "Oh, do you want us to add you on our file?" And I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'm not ready. I just graduated college at that point, so I was like, I need to do some stuff, right?" So and then I applied right after they came to Canada, also for my own visa. But having family here definitely helped. Like, it was a huge help. And when you land in a different country and you don't know anyone, it can be quite difficult. But having family here is pretty amazing. And my mom was in Canada at the time when I came here. She came to Canada many times to help my sisters raise their kids when they were very young. So it was really nice. I haven't seen my mom in like 2 years, and then when I came to Canada, she was here, so it was nice to spend some time
Oh,
with her too. So yeah.
that is amazing. Yeah. It definitely, this couldn't have been before 1989. This was after 89, right? Because I don't think we were allowed to leave
Oh yeah, no, this was like in the
after
2000
communism
or so.
ended.
Yeah, like yeah. But that's why I said my sisters came, after the 2000s. And then honestly, I thought about Australia before when I was in college. Like, I wasn't sure where to kind of go. But then when my sisters moved here, I was like, I'll go there too. And my mom always jokes, and she tells people that she had kids to populate Canada, because three of us are here. uh, yeah, I have
Yeah.
three older sisters, and I'm the youngest. So three of
Oh,
them of us are here, and then one of them is still home, living
oh, she
in
needs to
Australia.
join.
Well, they are very sad. They're like, she's been married for almost 20 years, and they have their things in order there, their house, their garden. They've been building a life there. So I really don't see them moving here. But yeah, we've been telling them for years. But my nephew did come to Canada to visit, and he loved it. He
He
spent the
loved it.
summer here with my mom a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, he loved it because he came in the summer.
Yes.
As you can tell, I'm not really. Well, I've never been to Canada, so I can't really tell. It's not my cup of tea. I'm not with the politics,
Yeah.
current
Well,
politics. Yeah.
yeah. But even winters, it's not that bad, because Canada is prepared for winter. It's not like Romania. You go to Romania, it snows once and everything is like paralyzed. But here, like, we are we are used to -30, -40 for weeks and weeks. But you also have like the comfort. You drive a truck or an SUV. So you kind of adapt to the new lifestyle, the snow shoveling. which honestly I really love. I love shoveling snow. I'm so
You
weird,
do?
but yeah, like I make a cup of tea
Wow.
and I go outside and it's a great workout. Gets your heart pumping and I I don't know. I'm weird that way, but I actually enjoy cleaning snow. So yeah.
Oh wow, that's good. That makes one of us. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for that alone, I wouldn't be able to survive in Canada. There's no way I'm going to be outside scraping snow. Hell no. So you're a much better person than I am. I can't do that. Oh my gosh. But yeah, this.
Yes.
My goodness. Let's bring it to this. So you're the
Okay.
author of The Life of a Romanian World War One Prisoner of War, and it tells this powerful story of your great grandfather's survival through the brutality of World War One. And what I loved most about this book was that it highlights the profound role faith played in sustaining him through such terrible hardships. Like he was such a strong man, but faith made him even stronger. And I also love that and this is a very personal. I love that it brought back a lot of my childhood memories. So my maternal great grandfather, whose name was also Dumitru, was born in 1898, and he lived 98 years. I was 12 when he passed. He served in both World War One and World War Two, and he told me so many stories. And obviously, he was never a prisoner in any of the wars, but he all his stories had one thing in common, and that was faith. And when I was reading this, I was so emotional because it kind of made me feel close even with my great grandfather. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's such an emotional story. So I want to know, I want to know, how did you feel when you were reading his journal? Like, how emotional was that to know what he went through? Also, I want to know, who's this mistress, Katrina?
Oh, yes, from France, right?
Woo! Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me about it.
So, first of all, I would like to start with saying that I think he's the voice of tens of thousands of people. He's the unknown soldier that actually got the chance to tell his story, and that's why I felt it was so important to share his story because
Yeah.
he's so optimistic and so positive, and I do think that God saved him. You know, like God really had a big plan for him, and he lived until he was 86, which is
Oh, so he was
amazing,
had a
right?
long life.
Yes, yeah. So um, I like I don't think he would have survived without faith. He like if you read the book, you know the hardships he's been through and how many others have died in those conditions. And that's why I always say he's the voice of tens of thousands of people, that didn't make it or did make it. And it's funny because one of my mom's friends, and she's also a distant cousin, she read the book and then she sent me a nice long text, and she said that her grandpa also went to war in the same time, and he returned home and he never wanted to talk about it. She was like, "You were
Wow.
hiding behind the fence to try to listen to the stories." And when he was, but he was very reluctant to share anything. And when she read the book, she said that she finally understood.
Yeah.
So it's funny how, like, so many people, when they read the book or when I do book signings and stuff, they come to me and they're like, they connect because everyone has someone that went through something.
Yep.
The fact that we know about it or we don't, that's the difference, right? Some stories have been passed through generations, and like about your great grandfather, and you actually had the chance to meet him and get to know him a little bit, right? So I think it's a great way to connect with people, and I think it's so encouraging and so inspiring. Like, it really makes you appreciate life more than anything, right? And
Yes.
I'm so lucky I'm born, you know, uh, that I was born, because the chances that you know I not to be born were higher than you know
Right.
considering what he's been through. So yeah. So you were asking me earlier how I felt when I read the journal. I'll start how I discovered the journals.
Yeah.
uh, So about 2 years ago, I started doing some digging, about our family history. I'm super curious. I love history. I love ancestry, and I started asking my mom questions. I was like, uh, I I thought I had a dream or from childhood or something like that, and I asked her like, "Do you have a journal from your grandpa, or did I dream about it when I was a kid?" I thought I heard that right in the conversation, and she's like, "No, I do have it. There is a journal." And I was like, "Really?" For years and years, I kept wondering like, where did that journal end up, right? Because I thought maybe it was just a delusion in my mind. But a year and a half ago, I went to visit in the spring for Easter, and my mom said, "Yeah, when you come home, I'll give you the journal." So I took the journal. I came back to Canada, and the first time I actually read it, a few months later, my sister came to visit from Calgary. I live a little bit south from Calgary, and the kids were playing, and we're spending the weekend together, and we started reading it together, the journal, and we're bawling our eyes, like we're just like, and we're like, "Kids, like listen to these stories, like like we're so overwhelmed with what we're reading." And it took me months to decipher the journal. Like he didn't really study a lot in school. I think he had 4 classes, so you can see through the journal how he improved his writing, like the language and stuff. It's a very old archaic Romanian language. um, so it took me months and months to kind of decipher it. And then in July, I went back home. We had a family reunion, like the whole family went home, cousins, sisters, you name it, my parents, my auntie. So the village where he was born and where he passed away is only 7 kilometers from where we grew up. So I told my mom, "I'm not going back to Canada until you take me there. I've never been there ever since I was a kid. I want to see where he was born, where he's buried. I want to find his grave." So I was like on a mission. So I took my whole family. We, like my sisters, my parents, we jumped in the car. We went. It took us about an hour to find his grave. It was like plus 40 outside, and we were like in a survival episode looking for clues. Like it was hilarious. If someone would have filmed us. Yeah. And my mom had to make some calls, phone some like her cousin to find out like some directions, because we had no idea what we were looking for, right? And like for me, it was so important to like, I read his journal. I don't know, kind of connected with him. I wanna like see why was it so important for him to come back home, like I had to know. So yeah, we finally found his grave and his parents. And to my surprise, there were like over 100, if not more, hundreds of graves with the same last name, Balach, on the same lot. Like, your hair goes up your spine. It's like,
Yeah.
wow. Then I started researching about the village, about the family and stuff, and I learned that the village has been founded around the 1500s. And I was like, oh, that explains it. So many generations of people. So I understood why roots were so important to him. I understood why he had to go back home. Like you read the book, the love for his family, his siblings, his like he had the responsibility, like he was very proud. And visiting his grave, finding his, seeing his house where he was born. Obviously, it's been renovated, expanded, and all that, but it looks different than 100 some years ago. But it was such a journey, just feeling all of these things. And I kind of started digging into history and things like that. And um, I translated the journal into English. My idea was that my nieces, nephews, and some other family members can read it, and that turned into a book. I think I told you that before when we did the other podcast episode. And I kind of pre-launched it, self-published in the fall, and I got a lot of feedback from people. So initially, I just translated the journal. It wasn't much of work done to it, but then I decided to do more history check, and I wrote a whole chapter about his life. Like I started making phone calls, like as my mom, go talk to whoever is still alive from the family. And I phoned my auntie, like people that met him and stuff. So I was able to find out more about his life after he returned, because everyone was like, okay, he was a prisoner of war, he went through all this stuff, but what after?
Right.
What happened? How did he live his life? And it's pretty amazing. And I see. so much, of him in me, like going through this journey and learning all these things about him. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Like that's,
Yeah.
I like certain things or I don't like certain things, and then I look back at what I learned about him, and I'm like, wow, this is like, it's genes are so strong and so important, right? And we don't even know why we, certain things we relate to them differently than others and stuff.
It's
So
so true. Wow. And I actually like faith, going back to that. It's kind of proof that like your book is proof that back then man had a lot more faith. Like, or I know like even with my great grandfather, he lied about his age to enlist in World War I. Back then, men used to fake their age to go to war, but like these days, men pretend to be women to win in sports. So, it was a whole different ball game. The way the world changed and the way man used to be so different back then. It's just looking at your great grandfather, I'm like, wow. Do they even
yes,
make men like this these days?
and family was everything, and I think that kind of passed down generations and stuff, because like even to this day for me, family is like the most important thing, like
Yeah.
my sisters are my best friends, and my parents mean everything, and even extended family, and like it's so important. That's why even last year we decided to do a family reunion. We haven't seen all of us in like 15 years. Like some of the nieces and nephews never even been in the same room together. Like they've met each other but like in different yeah. So it was so amazing to have that family reunion in the house that my grandpa built, when my mom was a kid. And yeah, it was like 20 some people in like 6 7 rooms. It was insane. For like a week we were like coming and going, but it was like we didn't want to stay anywhere else. It was like, no, we're gonna all stay here, and the late nights and that, the Romanian the way we kind of celebrate, and it was amazing, to
Yeah.
bring everyone together. Yeah.
And I bet he was smiling from heaven, like, nice. How amazing the importance of actually writing a journal. This journal made me think, okay, even though I have no kids, I may never have kids, I still think it's just putting your thoughts on there. You never know what could inspire future generations and who can run into, you know, who can find that and how that can change lives. Like his journal changed lives. And I mean, could you walk us through like your writing process? How do you navigate like the challenges of writing in a language that's not yours? First of all.
Yeah. So it was challenging, but in the same time, I had the journal, right? Some people, when they first start writing or they have a book idea, they don't even, know where to start, right? So I had the journal. So first of all, I didn't start as a book project. I just started translating it, from Romanian to English, and then basically I expanded those stories, because his inscriptions were quite short at times, and uh, obviously kind of you have to, I don't know, it's weird because it's like you put yourself there, right? Like you're trying to imagine, he's describing the place he's at and the things he's doing, and like some of the stories are so hilarious, like in Romanian. I just, you lose it in translation. Sometimes he wrote in lyrics and stuff, so I just kind of try to take that, the story out of the lyrics, right? And make a scene out of it, or
Yeah.
because yeah, so I had to be very creative to be able to tell his story through his inscriptions, because um, sometimes it was just a phrase or something, right? So you kind of had to put yourself there, and yeah. So I started with that. I translated it, and then when the idea of the book came, I knew I had to write an introduction to tell people about the book, some history, and then I knew I had to tell my reader also who this soldier is, right? And for the end, as I said, after the pre-launch of the book, I learned that I had to um, basically write a chapter on his life, right? And
Yeah.
his accomplishments once he returned home. And of course, I couldn't skip the acknowledgments. So maybe, the structure of the book is different than other books, but it was just fitting for this project, right? But honestly, the writing process wasn't even that bad, and I will say that I did use technology and things that we have at hand today, wordtune and other uh, avenues to help me improve my you know expressions and certain words that needed to be a little bit refined and stuff, because you lose a lot of things in translation, right? So
Yes.
um, yeah, so I did use some tools for that, obviously, since English is not my first language. And also having an edit, like I published a book through a publisher and having an editor going through the book, and we had to choose what kind of English we want to use, American, Canadian, and there's like so many types of
Right.
dialects, right? So I chose the Canadian dialect, and they went like word by word through the book and did some corrections to for certain expressions, or but with minimum, like they don't actually change the content of the book, because obviously it is what it is, but it's very helpful to have that professional help, right?
That's
So
true.
in the end, when you do provide a book, is like the most professional and way of possible presented, and
Yeah,
yeah.
it's important to have a proofreader, an editor. What were like some of the most unexpected challenges you faced during the publication of your book? Like how did you overcome if you had any challenges?
Honestly, like the publication process was quite smooth. I can't say that I had any issues. It was amazing to have a good team behind, and they were always on top of things, and the whole process was very smooth. And the way that we did the editing and the back and forth, from that point of view, I'm like super lucky. I had no hiccups. I think, in my opinion, it's easy to write a book. Anyone in the end can write a book and find a way to polish it and publish it in some way. In today's world, like, you can even self-publish. There's so many avenues to do that, but the I think the most challenging thing is to actually promote the book. you
I
know
agree.
uh, yeah, like there's millions and millions of books out there, and getting your story out, telling people why and how, and your whole process why you wrote the book, and um, like people won't buy unless they identify with what you're trying to tell them, or what you're offering them, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, me personally, I love true stories, I love history, so I'm always like, uh, you know, when I see something like this, I'm like, I need to read it, right? I think there's no better way to learn anything about anything in life unless you learn it from someone that's been through something, right?
Yeah, I
So,
agree. Ah,
so yeah, I think growing a social media presence, trying to uh, you know go out there, and that's why I even created the podcast. Get to know people, get to talk about what I do, and uh, promoting positivity, gratitude. That's all I'm about, because I think it's so important, right? That, like, his journal impacted me so much that I was like, I need to share this
yeah.
with the world.
And on a side note, I know, do you, by any chance, let's see if I can share this, Hmm. will, we're talking about gratitude. Will we be able to see these amazing journals?
Yes, that's something I'm working on. I'm planning to also do it through the publisher.
Gosh, I can't
Yes,
wait.
so
I am so
uh,
excited. And guys, you have to get one of these. I mean, both of them, they're actually different. The prayer journal, and the gratitude journal. It says the 5 minute. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yes.
I
Yeah,
can't.
that's work in progress at the moment, but definitely, I definitely plan to do more in the future, and in the world of books, and I'm working on some other things too. I have some notes and stuff, so um, and I have some ideas um, about that too. So I will see how I can integrate the gratitude and
The
um,
journal.
all that in. Yeah, yeah. So we'll see in the next year or so how things connect with that.
Yes, I feel very blessed to be able to get a preview of this already.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So once they come out, oh my gosh, I'm gonna tell everybody you need to have this. You need to have these things because they're amazing. These journals are amazing. So, what about like looking back over the past 5 years, say 5 years, right? What moment or event do you believe has fundamentally changed you as a person? And how did it influence your perspective on life?
Well, I think the last 5 years, they have been really hard for the whole planet.
Yeah.
Going through what we all went through, and I really, I don't know, it made me realize that life is very short, and we should enjoy every moment, and we should, aim high and try to achieve our goals and dreams because you never know when it's gonna end. And it was hard because you also have family in Romania, and like when you don't know if you're ever gonna see your family again or your friends or your whole life,
Yeah.
you know, it's a very strange feeling. So that changed me in the sense that it made me realize that I shouldn't wait. That's why you know doing my researches with ancestry and history and like everything led me to where I am today. I had no idea, I had no plans, but I think God has a plan and He knows how to guide us and how to get there. And um, yeah, it made me realize that we should travel more. We should do more of the things we love because when you are constrained and you can't do the things you want to do, that's when you really feel that the pain, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think that if anything, what I learned in the past 5 years is that you have to live life to the fullest and not postpone stuff.
Hmm. I like that. Live life to the fullest. And that would be traveling, loving, taking risks, find ways to
Yeah.
grow, not be superficial. I liked how you've been digging in your ancestry. You've been trying to, you're not a superficial person. You're not a on the surface kind of like I don't know who was my great grandfather. You went there and try to figure it out like who are these people I came from. That tells me a lot about you, and you have a lot of depth, and that's amazing. Which brings me to another question. In your opinion, what is the purpose of human existence, and how does that influence the way you choose to live your life?
um hmm, this is a good one. So I think the purpose is to find yourself and love yourself and learn how to be alone but not lonely. It's a big difference between being lonely and alone. Like it took me many many years to be okay to be with myself, like be by myself. I was so scared that, I always made plans with friends. I always made plans, over the weekend to do stuff. Like I was so busy, like go go go, never stop. And I was scared to spend time with myself, and I think that gets us in trouble in relationships, with partners, and you create you're not
Codependent.
independent, right? Yeah, yeah, you create codependency, and that's not healthy, right? So I'm not saying be lonely, but learn how to love yourself and how to be, because if you don't love yourself, how do you expect others to love you, right? Like we
Yes,
have this expectation of like, oh, I want to find the right person, but in the end, you just have to be the right person. You don't have to find the right person
I love it.
because um, I think that's why relationships don't work. So many people go through tens and tens of, relationships, one after another, 3 months, 6 months, 2 months, and it's like, oh, not the one, not the one. Like when you think about it, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, if you are lucky, you've met 100 people in your whole life in the village you lived in, right? So um, I know it, is very controversial, but back in the day, most marriages were done by convenience, right? Like it was more like a business, right? You had to think, okay, if I'm marrying this girl, well, she's hardworking, she can be a mother, she can have, my kids, and I'll bring the land, and she has some cows, and like it was kind of a
Yeah.
joke, right? It's the same in life today. Like people try to find that, you know happiness, and they're chasing it there, and are throwing everything in the trash so easily, right? They don't even try working on it. Honestly, I think you can love anyone, because love is a decision.
Yeah,
It's
choice.
not something like you wake up in the morning, and if in a relationship, if one of the two people stops working on the relationship, that relationship is going to fail. So you have to be committed, and you have to, know when you wake up, I'm going to love that person. I choose to do so, because those butterflies from the first 3 months, 6 months, they go away after a while. So if you want to build a long lasting relationship or marriage, you have to know what you want, and you have to work on it. There's no easy relationships, not with friends, not with family, not with your spouse. So yeah, you have to put in the work if you want to
Yeah,
get the results, right? So
I
um,
agree.
yeah.
It's so true. And I loved that what you said about yourself. Like if you're, I've always thought if you're alone, like if you're lonely when you're alone, then you're in bad company. And you have to love yourself. Definitely, I completely agree with you on that because like if we, basically we see who we are, we don't see things as they are. Who said that? Somebody else said that. It's not mine. But like we see people the and things the way we are, not the way things actually are. So if I'm this lonely person, insecure, then how can I have how can I build a strong foundation in a relationship? How am I gonna, sustain the difficult times that, the ups and downs, mostly the downs. So yeah, I completely agree. Like, but what do you do after 20 years of marriage? I'm assuming you've been married for a long time.
It's 6 years actually. We just celebrated
Just,
recently.
oh, just,
Yeah.
oh, nice. Okay, so you're
Yeah.
newlyweds. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Pretty much,
You're still in the butterfly phase.
yeah.
Okay. In the whole, but after, say, 15 years, you're going to be like, okay. And then that's when you have to, like, all of that you mentioned, you have to apply that. You have to stay strong. You have to be like,
Absolutely.
remind yourself, okay, this, anybody else at the beginning is going to be, it's going to appear like this, the grass that's always greener
Yeah.
over there is because somebody else waters it. You have to remind yourself of that. That's,
I do have an answer to that, and my answer to that is to leave your ego at home, because ego ruined more relationships and destroyed more dreams than anything else. Honestly, I I beat my ego down, like my ego. You know what I mean?
good.
When it comes to critic, even for work, for from friends, if they see something that I don't see, right? Like I'm always welcoming feedback, and even in my relationship with my sisters or my parents or my husband, I do not have an ego. Like it has no place in my marriage, because I don't care who's right and who's wrong. At the end of the day, I'm not gonna go to bed upset. That's my first rule. I will never go to bed like when I see people. Oh, I haven't talked to my husband in a week. We are like, why fight? Like your husband is your choice. Like it's your like your life choices, right? The choices you made. And the dirtiest thing you can do is go out there and talk trash about your partner. Like, like that's the worst thing you can do. Like, he should be your best friend. uh, you know, yeah, people fight. There's no perfect relationship. But when you put your ego in and you don't want to leave your guard down, no, I am right. I'm going to prove you. Like, you get that hatred and you get that, stubbornness in there. Where are you going to get? Things are only going to get worse. Like, if you want to pick a fight with someone, you're going to find it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So that's why I think the answer is leave your ego at home. It doesn't matter at the end of the day who's right and who's wrong. You are in a marriage together. The goal is to make the marriage work.
Yeah.
It's not to please me that I'm right or to please you that you're wrong, that you're right, right? So I think, yeah, long lasting relationships, if you want them to last longer, check your ego at the door and be humble,
Yeah.
because you're not gonna get anywhere if you fight, right? Like like two bulls. There's no place for that.
Yeah, especially like in this day and age with all this social media, a lot of the kids are playing these, and I have a lot of friends that are single and they're playing all these games like, oh, he didn't write me today, so I'm not gonna write him. Okay, so nobody's gonna write for the next, what, few months, and they just,
Yes, ghosting.
what is
Yes.
this? What are we doing
Oh,
here? So what's the point? Like, I, I,
honestly, if you are in your late 30s or beginning of your 40s or even older, like I have some other friends that are single or divorced, maybe my age or a little bit older. Like, I tell them, if you go out with someone or start dating, I'll be upfront and very, like, I don't have time to waste my life. I'm like 40 years old. Like, let's skip the that's what I would do. Like, I like, be upfront and know what you want, because if you know what you want, God will provide. you know
right,
like, and I'll tell you a story. When I first met my husband, we were both out of, like, relationships, long-term relationships, and he wasn't really sure what he wanted. Like, there were months and months when we were, like, back and forth, and, like, we were together, but it wasn't like the commitment, like 100%, to know that person. And the one day, because he was like, yeah, I don't know what I want, and I said, yeah, phone me in 6 months. Whenever you know what you want, I'll be here. And he was like, what? Like, most women would tell me to go, and I'm like, no, I know what I want. So yeah, when you are ready, just give me a call. And it took a couple of weeks, and he phoned me. And that was that. But you have to know what you want, and you have to be decided,
yeah,
about that, because there's no other way. And yeah, like, my advice for people that are looking for a partner or anything like that, especially if they're in their late, but even when you're 20 some years old, like, there's no time to waste.
no,
Like, why waste our time, ghosting each other or playing games, like, who's gonna text who, or, like, what does it matter? Do you want to build a life with someone?
yeah,
Go for it. um, I don't think you have to date for 10 years to do that. Yeah, get to know each other. I'm not saying necessarily jump in and get married tomorrow, but don't play games. Like,
yeah.
what's the purpose? Where is that gonna get you?
I completely agree. And some men are just chasing multiple women at once, and then they wonder why the right ones didn't pick them. They're not gonna pick you because they're smart. They knew, they have intuition. They knew you were playing all these games. They figured it out. I mean, you're out here
Yeah,
doing writing so and so, trying to chase this other one, trying to do this with the other one, trying to be, it's smart ones. The
especially
smart
if
ones
you're
will figure it out.
especially if you're Romanian, you're a born detective. Like,
Yeah.
I always laugh with my friends about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like, give me a computer and I'll find everything for you. Yeah.
I think I don't even need a computer. I think I just need 2 seconds of,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like on a whole nother level. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, how did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do your homework. Yeah.
yeah, and I think the reason why a lot of people come to me for like relationship advice is because of that intuitive nature. Because they're always like, man, whatever you said was true. Whatever. So yeah, it's very fascinating, like how if you're very decisive even like small things like you know what to wear. If you know the outfit, you envision the outfit. I want to wear this. Then you're gonna find those clothes a lot faster. As if this is just an example outside of the relationship real. But if you're like, say you're in a room and you're like, okay, I think I want to wear that. Boom, boom. It's a lot faster. You find it quickly. You're ready a lot faster. You have more time to prepare for your meeting. You come into the meeting more relaxed. Same with a relationship. You don't know what the hell you want. It's gonna be a catastrophe. It's gonna be a train wreck of a
Yeah.
relationship. You don't know what you want from that relationship. You don't even know. So, yeah, and especially if you're chasing multiple people at once, because your energy, when it comes to my time, I'm ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am ruthless when it comes to my time and energy. And if somebody's like out there trying to like, oh, let's do, for example, like somebody that was supposed to be in a podcast and kept postponing me and kept rescheduling it. Nope, we're good. Like I have very much like, nope, this is what I know what I want. You're in it or you're out. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe it's a Romanian thing that we both have.
You have to know what you want, because like when it comes to relationships, that's why people don't last in relationships. They don't know what they want, but they have these high expectations. Everyone expects things, but they don't offer it. Like, in order to receive, you have to give, and maybe sometimes you have to do the like take the first step.
Yeah,
And that's hard, right? Because like you said, even starting with texting, oh, why should I text, because I haven't heard. And that's so childish. Like, are we 14 years old?
right.
Like, yeah, I'm so glad that I don't have to worry about dating and stuff. Like, sometimes I tell my husband, I'm like, we are so lucky, you know like that we don't have to, like, in this world today, like, you see people on dating apps and stuff, like scrolling through hundreds of people every day, and like, no, 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 yes, yes. Like, why? Like, that really screws up your brain chemistry, like, big time. Yeah.
I
uh,
don't know about those apps. I've never actually I've seen an aunt of mine be on those apps and she was showing me things and I'm like, this is oof, it gives me the cringe, the creepy vibes, like the app that you have to like look at these people. It's just, it's not organic. It's not something, like when you go to the church and you meet this person, you connect,
mhm.
you have affinities, you have things in common. You get to, you communicate. What is this thing like?
You connect, yeah.
No, I could not. This day and age, it's
Yeah.
wild, man. But yeah, it's so again, in an age where we are more connected digitally than ever before, do you believe that true, meaningful human connection, in more or less, is more or less difficult to achieve?
It is difficult to achieve, more difficult to achieve than before,
Mhm.
but it all depends on, like, your lifestyle and your goals, and knowing what you want to do with your life, right? Like, how you want to spend your time. And that applies, obviously, career, relationships, and so on.
Right.
But it's funny, a couple of years ago we got a hot tub. We had that in mind ever since we moved into this house years ago. And when we bought the hot tub, one of our friends said, oh, that's the best
Investment?
marriage no, that's the best marriage tool you can buy. And we're like, really? And we're like, how come? And he's like, yeah, one of my friends' parents, they bought a hot tub and it saved their marriage. And we're like, really? So that really struck me. And honestly, we use it all the time, especially mornings, coffee and stuff. And we don't take our phones with us, or if we do, we just don't check them. You sit there and you connect and you chat, or we go out for walks, or on bike rides and stuff like that, right? And but the hot tub thing, it really struck me, like, yeah, like, it saves marriages. And it's true, because you get the chance to have, like, meaningful connections, and you know actually have that person's full attention, right? Like, even if you get friends over and you visit, if you sit on the couch, someone is going to grab their phone at some point, right? But if you go in the hot tub, you're going to have the chance to visit and actually connect and talk, right?
Yeah.
Which is very weird, but these days it's so hard to do that, because yeah, like, I'm guilty of that too. If I go for lunch with someone, like, my phone is blowing up all the time, and I have lots of things going on, and sometimes I have to reply to some messages, right? Depending what I'm doing at that time. And I feel bad because I'm like, you should have my undivided attention. And I find myself, guilty of that. And I try my best to, like, maybe not take it out of my purse or flip it on the table so I don't have to see it, right? Even if it's on silent, because
It's
yeah,
true.
it's amazing. This,
If we ever go to lunch together, I have a rule. So every time I go out to lunch with the girls, we all put our phones one to like bunched up all the phones in one place, and whoever picks up the phone first, that one pays the whole bill.
oh,
And it's so funny because we're always like, damn, I gotta pay for all these habits. It's like seven, eight of us, and it's like, okay.
yeah, but that's a good rule. Yeah, it's yeah, it's hard, but you have to train yourself, like everything.
Yeah.
Like have some rules, have some discipline, and um, it's very important to spend quality time with people. It's so
Yes,
important. Yeah,
it is. It's so important, and I love that you guys go on bike rides and you find time for the hot tub. It's important to find time for
yeah,
each
it's
other.
necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, communication is key. What do you, and now we're looking at the whole, like, I'm looking at the whole, your life. What do you want your legacy to be? And how do you hope to be remembered by those who come after you? Are there any specific actions you're taking to achieve that?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to that, I would say that my writing this book is my legacy. I kind of, having the chance to share my great grandfather's story, and I feel like an extension of, kind of finishing it up for him. Like this is the proof that he made it, and this is what he accomplished, right? So I think that would be my legacy, the fact that I was able to cherish his memory and.
That's amazing.
Show appreciation, for the things he's been through.
That's a great legacy. That is. A lot of people actually don't even know what they want to do, like what they want to do with their lives, let alone what kind of legacy they want to leave behind. So it's inspiring that you've already accomplished. And what does
Yeah, and
happiness mean to you?
what's that?
What does happiness mean to you? And do you believe it's constant state to be achieved, or rather a fleeting series of moments to be experienced?
So, just like relationships, I think happiness is a choice. Like you choose to be happy, and the way you live your life, it reflects how you feel inside. So, probably you've been through so many places, you have friends, family, and stuff, but like when you go to someone's house and if things are messy, uh, you know it's like, oh yeah, I don't, because how we feel it reflects in our life, right? If your office is messy and you don't know where papers are, or your house and stuff, yeah, of course, maybe not everyone does dishes right away or laundry or whatever, but I'm talking like messy, and you know what I mean, like hoarding messy. That's a very Romanian. I think it's a lot of past trauma there, but we talked about that before. But how you feel reflects on your life, right? So I do think it's a choice. Like I honestly, in my life, I've been through lots of depression episodes too. Like I won't lie, I struggled at times with life, with not knowing what I want, how I want to do things, and things like that. But in the end, the best decisions of my life and the biggest changes I've made were coming out of a depression, because that's where I took the decision, I need to change something. If I want to be out of this situation, or if I want to improve my life, I need to take action, right? So it's a decision. You need to pick yourself up and do something. No one is going to come and save you, right? uh, People dream, oh, if I meet the right person, if I have the right house, if I have the right, or the right job, that's not going to fulfill you. It's just going to be temporary. The mistake that people make these days, and comes from the Bible, people are influenced by things, people and places, right? So your feelings are influenced by how other people make you feel. What they tell you influences the way you feel. If they are, mean, or if they are nice to you, they are going to influence the way you react, right? You might have a good day or a bad day if someone was rude to you. um, Things, sometimes when you buy something, you have that high of the moment and you feel good for a while, but then that high wears off, so you write that off. And places, sometimes you might be in a place and you might not be happy with it, right? Or when you go on vacation and you kind of change the scenery and then you're like, oh, I'm happy, but those, like, your feelings are influenced by things, people, and places. And that, it's hard to achieve happiness, right? Because someone else controls that for you.
Right.
So that's why I say it's a choice, because it's up to you to do something and move from where you are now. There's a saying, if you don't like it where you are, move it. You are not a tree.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And also there's also Constantin Brâncuș, I think the greatest sculptor of all times. He had this saying, and I loved it. Like, I studied that in high school, and he said, things are not hard to do. It's just hard to put yourself into the mood to do it, right? Because in the end, once you start doing something, you feel accomplished. You feel like, oh, I'm achieving something.
Yeah.
And I think lists, like making a list, making a plan, it's so important, because as you check off your list, you're going to feel accomplished and you're going to feel happy, especially if it's things that you do for others.
Right.
Like, if you do things for others, that's going to bring you more fulfillment than if you do it for yourself.
I love it. Don't we have an old school saying in Romania? The hunger comes while smelling the food. So basically, you might not be in the mood, but if you start putting it down on a piece of paper, you're going to start getting that mood, and you're going to start getting, the inspiration, the motivation. Just got to start somewhere. And like you said, write it down. Get a checklist.
Write down your goals, your weekly, your monthly goals, your yearly goals, and see at the end of the year, did you achieve all that? Because if you don't make a plan and if you don't know what you want, you're not going to get it.
Right.
Like, you have to ask for it. If you want something, you have to ask for it. No one is going to come and rescue. No one is going to come and hand you anything.
Yeah.
No one is going to say, oh, do you want this nice house, or do you want this job? Or no, you actually have to work for it. You have to apply for it. You have to save the money. You dream about a big vacation. Put in the work.
Yeah. Make sure, closed mouths don't get fed. Me and the food these days, I guess I'm hungry, huh?
And we also have another saying in Romania: God gives you, but He never puts it in your bag, right? And I love that. Like, God gives you opportunities. Sometimes you may not see them, but that's on you. Maybe you're not ready, but the opportunities are there every day.
Yeah, if you look for them,
Every
you'll
day.
find them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to, do some work for it.
Yeah, that's true. And discipline, for sure, and have the discipline to stay dedicated to it. What experiences or influences have shaped your moral and ethical compass? Because I feel like you have a strong ethical just compass. How do you navigate situations where your morals are challenged?
Well, that comes with self-confidence, and I did struggle with that over the years. Like, if I'm too outspoken, or people are judgy, and but ever since I was a kid, my dad always used to tell me and my sisters, like, never care about other people's opinions, because if you do, that's gonna affect you so much throughout life. You won't do things right, because there will never be, like, everyone on this planet that is gonna love you, or like you, or like, especially you see with social media and stuff, there will always be someone that's gonna have something bad to say about it, and you cannot let that affect you. That affects your self-confidence, and then you are not gonna do things because you think, oh, what is that person gonna think about me, or what is, so I think it's very important not to care about what people think and do your thing, because I find it that when you start on something, unfortunately, friends and family are not going to be the first ones to support you. When the success comes, everyone is so proud, like, oh, this is so and so, and I know them. And but at the beginning, when you are just starting and no one knows you, and you're like, oh yeah, she's trying whatever, like most people that know you, they're, that's how they are thinking. Maybe they're not saying it, but so don't care about what people think, because if you would care about what everyone else thought uh, of your life choices, or how you chose to live your life and how you got to where you are today, you wouldn't be here today, because it would affect your self-confidence, right? And you would always think, oh, what is
Right.
people gonna say, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
So true.
I think that's something that um, self-confidence is very important, and you have to kind of, it's hard to build it, because there's so many people that are there trying to tear you down on the way. So you have to be very strong and keep going no matter what, because um, I think anything is possible. People can achieve anything they put their mind to.
Yeah. What about this depression? You mentioned depression earlier. Is that like how do you describe depression? What is it that you felt when you felt depressed? Like what was that feeling
Yeah.
like?
Well, I think is when you feel paralyzed, mentally. Like that's how I describe this depression. Like I bet 99% of the time you don't even know when someone is going through something, right? Because we are so good at putting a mask on. Like you still have to go to work, you still have to, continue life, go to barbecues, spend that time with family and stuff. But deep down inside, the struggles and maybe self doubt. It's like it's like, is this the right way? You pray over it. You try to find meaning. Try to see, how, if the road you are on, is it the right one, right? So um, especially when you have big changes, when you move to a different country, like you can be depressed before you move and after you move, because everything changed, right? You can get depressed that oh, I have to leave everything behind, and then all those struggles inside, and then you land to a different country, and you've been through that too. So there's struggles there to adapt to a new culture, a new language, new food. Everything influences you, right? So
True.
yeah, I think it's that I don't know, depression. I always call it deep pressure, like the pressure inside,
Mm.
right? So yeah, I think everyone goes through them. Now, however they want to identify it as depression or just you know, but it's hard, and you have to pull yourself out of that state. But the best things that came out of all these episodes for me was improving my life, because when you're down there and down and out and questioning everything about this life, and you have to find the answers. And there's something I learned a long time ago from one of my previous bosses or managers, I would say. Whenever I had a problem, and I went to him like, "Oh my God, we have this problem," and he was like, "Do you have three solutions?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Come back when you have three solutions." And honestly, that really changed my perspective in life and how I approach things.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we have a problem, but let's find three ways how we can solve this. It might not be ideal, but like come up with something. Because if you just sit there and be like, oh, this happened to me, I'm a victim, life is not fair. No, it's not. People go through, life is not meant to be fair. It's meant to be lived, and it's meant to learn,
Yeah.
from what we live. And yeah, so I think you always have to dig deep and find those solutions for yourself.
I agree. Like if you do you remember the machine, like when a person is on life support and there's that machine that shows the lifeline, the ups and downs.
Yeah.
If it's down, if you're lucky to have it down, you know that the next thing up is gonna go up, right? That the next thing is gonna go up. If you're blessed enough to be alive, you're going to have more ups and downs. The problem is it's when it's just stays flat. So, and even for me, like when you mentioned like coming to a new country, and my first experience moving from Milan to middle of nowhere, Utah, I had no driver's license, no job, didn't know anybody. I mean, no friends actually for the first few months, and it was I couldn't eat. The food was disgusting, utterly disgusting. So much pig, and I don't like pig. I don't eat pork like that. The bacon is just oh. So I lost so much weight. I was like 112 pounds, 5'9", like all like a lollipop. So I said my solutions are either go back to Europe, get a driver's license and a car and some friends, or I got to get out of here. Like I had to do something. So I started, I actually did get the driver's license. I got a job and I got friends and I started doing modeling and all that. But then I also moved back to Europe and, back to being normal again. But I agree. You have to have the solutions. Like, and when you're down, don't panic. Okay, calm down. Let me find the solutions and get out of this, whatever it is
Yeah.
that, yeah, in that situation. Look for your
And
solutions.
it might take a while, it might not happen overnight, uh, but you have to work on it, right?
Yeah,
Like you have to pick yourself up and you know like if you said you went back to Europe, that must have been a tough decision, right? Because you just uprooted your whole life and moved, and then you have to move again, so it's not easy to take those decisions. But for me it was a little bit the opposite. When I moved to Canada, I was so overwhelmed. Like everything was big, like the houses, the trucks. Like I remember the first time I got into my brother-in-law's truck, I felt like I was in a bus. I was like so overwhelmed. I was like, "What's this?" like you know. So yeah, but even the house I live in, like our whole bedroom and washroom are like bigger than my studio apartment in Bucharest. Like like even now I'm like but that's
yeah,
life in Canada. When you live in a house, obviously there's apartments here too, but it can be overwhelming, and it can really make you feel uh, you know like, what am I doing here? And with food, for me it was like I gained a lot of weight.
you did.
I Yes, I gained like, I don't know, 25 kilograms or so. Yeah, and then a couple of years later I decided I have to do something. So I did manage to lose like 30 kilograms, which is about 60 pounds. Like I was like, my health and everything is so important, I have to do something
Yeah,
to change that, because that affects your mental state. Like obviously you are more not so active. If you are active, then you are even more tired, so it's like a circle that you keep going. And yeah, so it was very difficult to, and I didn't recognize myself anymore, like, yeah, because food is so different, like you said, and the portions are big, and like everything is so different than what we are used to. And back home I used to walk like 10, 20,000 steps a day, and when you
yeah,
tell someone that, is like, what, how?
yeah,
But here, you go out from the house in your driveway, you drive your truck to work, and then you walk in the building, you go to the mall, you take the escalator and the elevator. Like there's no walking like in Europe.
yeah,
You have to walk. Like when I went home last year with my husband, my dad, in the evening, he would be like, "Oh, come on, guys, I'll drive you downtown," which is like 15-minute walk. It's a small town, and we're like, "No, we want to walk." He's like, "Yeah, but it's rainy outside," and we're like, "We don't care. We'll get an umbrella." Like, and he was like, keep insisting, and we're like, "Come on, like I want to walk." Like that's why I don't care, if it's raining or whatever. Like we could take a taxi, or he could, but we just wanted, like, it's, Romania is so beautiful, and
yeah,
like you have the trees and the terraces and the bars, and like life is so, yeah. So it's like you go out downtown to the promenade, right, to walk after supper. And like I didn't even have to phone to many people, because I would just go out for a walk in the evening, and I would
yeah,
see like
everybody,
friends from high school, and it's like, hey, what's going on,
yeah,
so it's like so cool to be able to do that. And like walking is such a big part of our culture there. And when you move to North America and stuff, like everything is so different, and it can impact your life. Either like yours was, you lost a lot of weight, and I gained a lot of weight,
yeah,
right? Because
interesting.
Yeah, I love food, and obviously
Yeah, well,
I loved it too much. Yeah.
I actually, the only thing I ate for a year and a half was one baked potato with salad. I could not eat anything else. And in the morning, I would have maybe like a sip of the sobe drinks. I was just very
Yeah.
unhealthy. Yeah, it was miserable. But yeah, I guess the food must not be that bad in Canada if you gain weight.
Yeah, but yeah, that's my take on, changes and how to adapt to like a new environment and stuff.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And what aspect of yourself are you currently striving to improve or change, and how do you reconcile self-acceptance with the desire to grow and change?
Well, I think for myself, uh, communications has always been like a big factor in my, in my life, and because I am Moltanka and I talk a lot, so it's very hard to, yeah, it's I I'm always trying to like listen more and talk less, and that's why even starting a podcast, it really makes me like, my husband was asking me how is that going, and I'm like, it's going great, and I'm learning how to listen more, because you can't talk over each other through a podcast, and that's definitely helping me to be more like, calm down, you have your, your time to share, but and communication in general, because especially here, English is not my first language, so I always have to improve, I always have to step it up, right? Especially work related and with people and everything I do, like communication, I think it's the number one key, to everything, like happiness, successful life, you name it. If you don't communicate with people, then um, you're kind of stuck, right? So
Right, right, right. But there are so many people to communicate with, and I feel bad because a lot of people actually are upset with me because I don't check my DMs, and I'm like, if I had that much time in the day to respond to everybody in my DM, I, I would have to live at least 20 lifetimes, like seriously. And I feel bad, and I wish I were a little more apologetic, and I wish people would understand that I just don't have the bandwidth to respond to everyone. So although communication is important, but I think it's more important whom you choose to
yes,
communicate with, because
yeah.
uh, even like even with the important people, I still don't have enough bandwidth and I don't have enough time. And I feel bad. Like even I know you wrote me an email yesterday. I'm like, dang, I forgot to respond to her email. I'm like, dang it.
That's okay. I perfectly understand.
Yes.
Honestly, Uh, I get a lot of messages also through Instagram and stuff. Some of them go to spam right away, and honestly, I like. There's people like, oh, I want to be friends. I want to get to know you. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'll tell you this in the nicest, kindest way. I don't have time to like build these friendships online or whatever. Like, if you want to text me something nice, sometimes I text people and I'm like, I love your content or whatever, but that's all I want to say. If you read it, great. If you don't, like, you don't have to reply, right? But just an appreciation, because I know how much hard work it goes into that, and people don't realize, like, especially when you have a big account that is like more than 10, 20, 30,000 followers, like, it's a lot of work to create that content and to post it, and especially if you're posting across different platforms and stuff, like, I don't know, it takes you at least an hour or so in the morning or
Yeah.
whenever, to kind of catch up with everyone and like things, and because you have to engage, and so it's not that easy. Like, people look and be like, oh yeah, look, she has 100,000 followers, oh, that must be nice or whatever, and then they're mad that you're not, like, it's not
Yeah.
feasible to reply to all the people. That's why even when I first texted you, I kind of, like, we added each other on Instagram. I thought not in a million years you're gonna see my message or you'll ever reply to me, because I was like, why would she? I just wanted to tell her that. Uh, but because, yeah, like you said, it also, like, you have to kind of pick and choose and, like, pick your battles, right?
Right.
Because yeah.
Oh, you're right. It's It's a lot of effort. It is. It's not easy. Like I would have to wake up, sometimes at 4:30, 5:30, just so that I can have that, those 2 hours for the social media of the day, that post of the day. Because I try to like go in different good groups. You know how I'm in different groups, and then
Yeah.
got to do all the group, all that catching up, and then I can start working. Like my government job starts at 7, so I have to have that time before I can start working. So it's like, man, y'all don't know.
I know, and I work like three jobs too, so I'm like super busy all the time. I'm always kind of running around doing things. I'm jumping from one to another thing. I work full time and I do other stuff on the
Yeah,
side. So it's a lot, to keep up with everything. But yeah.
yeah. You actually haven't mentioned you do. So you're, besides being an author, you're also like an architect. You write. You do the designs.
Drafting,
Okay.
yes. Yeah. So I do photography
Real estate.
for real estate. Yeah. And the RMS services, those are the measurements for the houses.
Wow.
So they need the square feet when they list houses. So I go in and measure and draw the plans for them.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's one of the side kicks, I would say. Um, and that's just like weekends and like evenings and stuff. Even last time when we filmed, I had to leave because I had to go and film something. So I do reels and social media for that, and I we also have some rentals. So I also manage that and keep do the bookkeeping and everything for our
Project management.
company. So yeah, so it's that's another one, and then I have the books and the social media. So that's a third job. So I guess I have a fourth one because I also have a full-time job.
What is that? What's
So
the full-time job?
I work in settlement for newcomers.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Settlement.
Yeah. So it's kind of hectic some days, but I love it because it keeps me busy and gives me purpose and meaning, and yeah, everything kind of trying to kind of grow personally and take care of the business, and in the same time navigate other. Yeah.
That's impressive. Wow, so much like real estate, property management, author, settlement. It's like amazing. That's you're and a content
Yeah.
creator. So yeah, and I love your content, guys. Um, you gotta go follow Emma on social media. What is your so they can follow you? What is your preferred?
Oh, just Emma Dirk. Yeah.
I know you have
It,
multiple. You have the real estate account. You have the Emma Dirk one that we've connected.
yes.
Okay, so that you wanna.
And the photography one, yeah, I just felt the need to keep them separate. And yeah, my content is mostly inspirational and stuff. Like I try to keep it and pass on the stuff I learned, and hopefully helping someone else that well, sometimes I think, I don't know if we talked about this before, but I find it that people are so hungry for this like personal development, and they need that boost, and that so um, sometimes, yeah, even myself, when I find something, I remix things because I'm like, I love this, I want to share it. If someone allows me to remix something,
Yeah.
because the way they have their settings, I'll do it because I find value in it. And if someone else can find value, and um, you know uh, I would like to pay that forward. Like, I'm not making money out of social media in any way, but because I get lots of comments and hate and
Oh,
stuff
really?
like,
Hate?
oh, you have so many million views and I'm not making any money. Like, if someone wants to listen to it and pass it on because they like the message, that's great. But and I keep telling them, stop spreading the negativity. It's not the right place to do it. Like, you didn't find the right person to do that, because I'm not here to.
I have time for that.
Yeah.
But that's so
Yeah.
basically Instagram back in the like a few years back, it didn't used to allow people to reshare. Like it would actually, well, it would
Mhm.
allow, but they were kind of punished if you were sharing someone else's content without giving them credit. But these days, actually, it's okay to do that. It's actually, if a video went viral, if you remix it and you put your spin to it, you can actually, that's kind of like a lot of strategies that are these days. A lot of people just do that as a strategy to get more, um, more views and more followers. So I think that's pretty brilliant. If you find something that's in your niche, you're actually like it's useful, it promotes a positive, whatever, all of the things that you're
Yeah.
you're you're doing, and it already went viral, so it helps the algorithm and it helps you grow. Why not?
And there's people that block that setting, like you cannot remix their stuff, and I totally respect that.
Yeah.
If they don't want people to remix it, that's great. They put a lot of hard work in it, and I recognize that because I know how hard, looking for the right videos and mounting it, and like the music and the voice, like it's a lot of work behind,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
social media. Like it's not just the let's go in and engage for an hour with other people. Like you actually have to put content out there every day. So that's also, you know like at the beginning when I started my Instagram, my husband was like, oh, like you're spending too much, because I was creating so much and trying to edit, and he's like, you're spending so much time on your phone. And I was like, yes, but then I got to like 1,000 followers, and he's like, oh, okay. Then I got to 10,000, and he's like, now you got my attention. Then he started to like listen to what I'm posting, and because he was like, you're like, why are you doing this? You're just wasting. But my idea was like, I want to build a community. I want to build a following. I was working on my book, so my idea was like, by the time I publish my book, I have a platform to kind of share my story with people, right? So I had a goal, because like there's so many books these days out there, like, but if no one knows about it, how are you going to share your story, right? So uh, now obviously my account grew a lot, especially in the last few months. I started, I think, last year, November-ish. So yeah, but it's a lot of hard work and a lot of hours put, especially at the beginning, because you don't even know what's working. Like if you are trying to build a social media presence, and like the first couple of months, it's more like, let's
Yeah,
see
let's figure
what,
this out.
yeah, which way it goes. That's why I tell, like, we have other people that we know in groups and stuff that maybe they're under 1,000 followers, or 10,000 or so. Like, keep posting, because you're gonna get that one video, then two videos that are more viral, and three, and hundreds of thousands of views, and then millions. And that's when people are gonna really start noticing and starting to follow you. So, and I see your engagement is amazing. Like when you post stuff, it's like um, it's pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are genuine followers that really want to listen to you and really value the content you put out there. So
Yeah, I also have to admit it's a lot going from, especially like the algorithm, trying to figure it out, trying to stay on top of all the changes. It changes all the time. So one thing might work now, then you got to keep on testing things and you have to figure it out. But I think ultimately, and you know how like it says when you have an account, have that be a specific niche. Like that is,
hmm
I've never really been about that. Like my thing is all over the place, and that's fine because my people, I'm just about I am who I am. I do multiple things. I'm not an insect to only have one
yeah,
special. I'm not specialized in one thing only. And then different people are just gonna tune in. I get it. They're gonna be bored half of the time because that's not half of the stuff they're looking for. But they're either gonna learn something different that's outside of the whatever it is that they're accustomed to, and either way, my my people are gonna find me. That's my theory. My theory is I am who the heck I am, and they're gonna find me. I'm not here to try to be a one thing. Once like I'm not trying to be a one thing only just because I want to be catering to just one specific group. No, I have multiple things.
yeah, and that's okay.
Exactly.
Like you are doing multiple things. I'm doing multiple
Right?
things. Everyone does what's best for them, and you can't just fit in one basket, right? Like
Yeah.
you can.
Just I get it. Like a lot of the people that you're looking at the 1 million followers pages, they only do one thing. And yeah, you grow faster because you that's the algorithm. But it's okay. I have my little small group. It's a complex group of thinkers and that have more depth to them. They don't only want one thing. So I'm cool with that.
Honestly, I did learn that the number of followers doesn't really mean much, maybe just for people's egos, oh, I have this many followers. Because in the end, it's about like who actually engages and who follows, like who likes your stuff and comments. And because there can be a lot of just people that follow you once and never,
Right.
hit the like button again. So, um, honestly, the follower numbers doesn't mean much. In my opinion, the relationships you build and the people you meet, like ever since the last couple of months have been pretty cool for me. And doing the podcast, getting to know more people, like I see their content online and I connect, and the stories they share, like this is what this is all about,
Yes.
not necessarily like finding your people, like you said,
Yeah.
right? It's not necessarily about the amount of people that follow you.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on a friend or a former friend, somebody that unfollows you? Like for me, if I'm friends with someone but they unfollow me, I kind of lose that respect for them because I just kind of feel like you really have to just,
um,
yeah,
yeah, I think with that is I don't yeah, I don't think you are at different places in life. That's how I see things, right? And if people can't identify with you or appreciate you or be happy for you generally, and probably the reason they unfollow you is because you know they are jealous. I hate to say it, but you know it's like I don't want to see how good you are doing,
wow,
type of thing, right? I think that's why they unfollow. To be honest, like yeah, and for example, with my personal Facebook account, like I keep it like under 500 people. Every once a year or so, I go in and I start deleting people. I'm looking on like I haven't seen this person in 15 years. You know what I mean? Like I met them randomly at whatever job and I clean my on Instagram it's hard because it's like there's so many, right? But it's different. But like
right.
in your inner like more private ones, um, but it sometimes I do that too, right? So I'm seeing from that point of view. It's just I don't find the connection anymore, or like you know we've met at some point in our lives, but I just don't. Yeah, I keep a small circle, and I like to just have like close family, friends, and
Yeah, and I get it. Like if you're trying to for accounts that are completely
private.
private for that specific purpose, I get it. But if your account is out there,
Yeah,
thousands of followers, and you've been friends for a few months, do you really need to unfollow someone to prove what kind of point? Because that's just, I feel like that's actually a very childish point to prove. It's just,
it is. Yeah, I just I would say jealousy, to be
um,
honest, or like they um, probably can't stand looking at you and seeing that you're successful. I said this earlier, like uh, when you start a journey, most of the times your close ones might not support you, right? So it's hurtful, but it's true. So there's a really handful of people that really they are really really happy for you. I can bet
yeah,
that,
yeah.
right?
I actually, whenever somebody does that, it kind of makes me smile. It makes it so much easier. It's like, okay, I guess I didn't
Yeah,
lose a friend. I guess I didn't lose
yeah,
anything because you were nothing. So yeah, it's true. It basically just confirms the fact that good,
yeah. They shouldn't be in your life.
did me a favor
If they were important, yeah, if they were that important
if they ever
to
cared.
you, they would have been, yeah,
Yeah, it's so yeah, and you see a lot of the kids these days, like my nieces, they have Instagram and they have all this, the social media, so they get so hurt when so and so unfollowed them, and I'm like, baby girl,
I don't have time for that.
please don't. Yeah, don't worry about who unfollowed you because that means they never cared to begin with. If they, be good, be happy. They did you a favor. So it's kind of like in life. Yeah, you gotta. I'm always. What do I teach the young ones? How can I help the young ones better understand? You know, all this whatever it is that they call like this dramatic moments in their lives. But
That are so insignificant,
yeah,
yeah.
that could be so insignificant. But sometimes, even a grown up could suffer from, this something like that if the person that unfollowed was meaningful to them. So it depends. But yeah, just don't put it to heart. It is what it is. But is there a question, like, let's see how we can, if to wrap this up, this amazing um, conversation, this amazing episode, would there be any questions that you wish I asked? Anything that you would like to, you would have liked for me to ask that I didn't?
Well, actually, you asked me something earlier and I didn't get to answer it, so I was
Perfect.
thinking about that, about what impacted my life when it comes to relationships, and kind of molded me into,
Yes.
um, so my mom's parents, my grandparents, uh, they were kind of my role model as couples, right? Like couple goals, I would say. Like I was always so impressed by them when I was growing up. My grandma died when I was 11, and my grandpa died when I was 15. So when I would go home, because we would spend the summer there, in Romania, parents send us to spend the summer with our grandparents. So I spent every summer of my life there until my grandma passed. And when I would go home, I would write them letters. Like I was so like connected, and I really loved them a lot and spent a lot of time with them. And just seeing how my grandpa took care of my grandma as a woman, like she had some health issues. She had kids very young, because back then, that's
Yeah.
you kind of got married and stuff. And when she was 28 years old, she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Yeah, I have really bad news for you. You can't have kids because your heart is not, big enough, and like you have these heart problems." And she was like, "What are you talking about? I have 3 kids at home." And the doctor was like, "What?" So, uh, and the doctor told her that she's gonna live until she's 32 because of her heart condition. She was, obviously young when she had kids, so her heart didn't grow enough. And my grandpa took such a good care of her, and she passed away when she was 60. Uh, and it wasn't even related with her heart problems, but just that dedication and that love. And like he made sure she took her pills. He made sure she, like she didn't sit in the sun and she didn't lift anything, and because she wasn't allowed to, right? And women are stubborn, especially in the countryside, and they want to do stuff. And that really struck me, and really impressed me, like how a man should really take care of his family, and appreciate his wife, and the mother of his children. And he was a tough man. Like he was so tough. Like expectations from us, like we had to behave. We were like six girls, like the cousins and stuff, and one boy.
Oh,
So how it's like, what are people gonna say? And like you need to behave, and you have an image too. Like he was really, like he had high standards for us, and I'm so happy he did,
yeah.
because yeah.
Wow.
So he was always kind of that role model. Like, what do you envision your marriage to be? Like how do you want to be treated, and how do you want to treat your husband? So that really made me have this vision about like what I want from my life and my relationships and my family. So
That is amazing to have that role model. And it's
yeah. So
how important it is to have that. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, that was on your mother's side, right? Maternal side.
yes. And then my other grandma on my dad's side, she she had this saying. She told me, like, when I was in high school, like 20 some years ago. It's quite funny, but the old Romanian wisdom. So she was like talking about relationships and stuff, and she told me that the secret to a happy marriage is to make sure your man is never hungry, like he's fed, like you cook for him basically, and take care of him intimately, you
Uh-huh.
know and she's like, she told me, men do not need too much. They need two things. If you offer him two things in life, they are gonna be happy, they're gonna treat you like a queen. You don't need anything else. Like well, with men, women, it's a little bit more difficult. They have lots of
Complicated.
needs. But and I find it that she was so right, because like the effort you put into like offering something to the relationship and to like your partner, that comes back, right? Because the way you treat him, and it's gonna come back to you how he treats you. And yeah, men are simple creatures, I would say. And I think if you master that and you take care of certain needs, then you don't have to worry about other things. Like so many people go and look for something else because they don't have or they don't receive certain things at home. Um, it's very simple. You just have to do some work.
Or maybe if you don't receive certain things, maybe you have to start being the one giving them. Stop
Exactly.
receiving.
Yeah. Like I have friends and women or men, and it wasn't used to be like, even in Romania divorces were not that common back in the day, right? But these days I know dozen people that my age, younger, older, that had divorced, and most of them have these two things in common. Like because I always laugh and I'm like, I'm making a survey. Like I ask them how do, like, what did and if you ask them about intimacy and other things, they are like, oh no, that wasn't going well. Or so yeah, I think people are not going to go and look somewhere else if they have what they need, right? So you have to make sure that you uh, do the work. And like you said, if you don't receive it, or you don't offer it, like it's the same. It goes back to who's gonna do this first step. Like, why be stubborn?
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So
Somebody's got to be the bigger person. But sometimes the bigger
yeah,
person
so
just kind of gets tired being the only person. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like I'm the one giving and giving and giving. How about
well, that's why I said that you also need two people to make things work, right? If just one does all the work, that's not going to work either, right? So obviously it needs to be like, let's find a balance. But I think spending quality time together, that's what, like, connecting basically. Because people forget, like, you have to remember how it was at the beginning. How were the first 3 months, what made you excited, and wanting to see them. And um, you have to kind of transport yourself back there, because like we get so busy with the mundane, and so it's like, that's not important, I'll just, like, you don't. And weeks go by and months, I'm too busy, I'm too, oh, I have a headache.
yes.
But it's like, yeah, it's, I don't know, it's we have to connect. And I think it's so important in relationships for people to hug, because it's that intimacy. Like, I'm not talking about intimacy necessarily about it comes in so many ways, like kiss each other. I i know it's like, oh, but I see you all day, or like, no, make a habit. When he leaves the door, kiss him, or hug him. It doesn't matter, you're going to see him in 6 hours or 10 hours or whatever. Like, make it as exciting as it was at the beginning, when you first started dating and you couldn't, like, you know leave him when you left. Like, you have to work for this. It doesn't just, because otherwise you're gonna end up just having a roommate.
Yeah, 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 it's true. Actually, if I were to give young people advice, I would say start journaling things. Start, when you're at the beginning of a relationship, start writing down those things that make you, that give those butterflies. What is it that, keep a record of that so that in 20 years, you can always refer back to that to bring you back, those vibes, that energy, that good feeling. And
Yeah,
maybe keep on dating. Like even after a while, yeah, it's gonna be maybe boring. Maybe you feel like everything has been said and done. It's just uh, whatever. We don't have time for this. But you have to put in that effort and go on dates and make it
yeah,
special again. Um, like
yeah.
that.
Buy a hot tub.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spend some quality time together, right?
Yeah, buy a hot tub. Actually, I do have a hot tub, but just no time for that hot tub. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but make the
Make the
time and
time.
connect, right? Connect to disconnect. So
Yeah, that is so true. If you can just put in the effort and make the time, put that on your
Yeah.
on your priority list. 'Cause, yeah, it's so true. But wow, Emma, you're such an amazing person to talk to. I had such a good time and definitely would love to do this again. I don't want to hold you up even longer because it's been more than an hour. You have a life. But
You are also very busy, so yeah.
oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your amazing wisdom and your amazing content and friendship and hope you'll come visit me in Vegas. I'm not coming to Canada, it's too cold for me, but you're very welcome to come to Vegas.
Don't worry, we'll come visit. And we actually, I told you, we just came back from Vegas a month before I met you. So uh,
Mm,
we were in Vegas. So too bad I didn't meet you the month before, so I can actually see you. But
nice,
yeah, we'll definitely come back next year, probably in the spring.
nice.
And you'll know about it
Yeah,
the minute we buy the tickets.
perfect. Yeah.
But I really appreciate this opportunity. This is my first podcast as a guest, and I feel like I'm thrilled to, be your guest and get to share some of my thoughts with you. And your questions were really
Oh,
amazing,
thank you.
like very deep and thoughtful. And yeah, I love
Oh,
that.
thank you. And you did an amazing job. Actually, I was your first. I was. That was my first appearance as a guest too on yours.
On my
Yes,
podcast,
you
yeah.
did a lot better than I did. I was like all over the place. Remember with people walking around here and all this stuff, and so yeah, I'm really proud of how you've done on your first one. It's not easy. Such a good episode. Oh, can't wait. Can't wait to share it with the people.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Emma,
And thank
and
you.
we'll keep in touch.